Pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
That's amore.
Bells will ring, ring-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ling-a-ling-a-ling, pizza
Isabella.
hearts to play, tippy-tippy-tay, tippy-tippy-tay, like a gay tarantella. Hello.
I sang that song live at a YPO event 20 years ago.
I'm telling you, man, I tell everyone on the show that God gives me my songs, and because it always happens. I had someone say, like, do you know how I sang that song? Oh, but hey, dude, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Darius. Great to be here. The Greatness Machine. I love the name.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys, welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mirshahzadeh, and I've been waiting for this show longer than any of you know. We have a very special guest today in Rick Sapio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Guys, look, the format of the show is quite simple. We're bringing together change makers from all over the world who are living their passions to create greatness in the world. And my friend Rick is probably like top 0.1% of living greatness and passions in the world. So I'm really excited to have him here. Before we dive into my friend Rick and all the greatness he's doing, I do want to do a few things. First of all, we're live. Start a watch party. Ask us questions. My team's on standby. They're going to be shooting questions our way. You guys may notice a little difference here. We're in a new system. It's called StreamYard. So we're testing it out. It seems like a much better system. So let's have some fun here. But, you know, a few things about my friend Rick. Mr. Rick Sapio, my gosh. First of all, he and I met in 2017. And it was on the back patio of this place called the MIT Endicott House. And he made some sort of joke about me being Middle Eastern, which I thought was awesome. Because my man here is from New Jersey, and all my buddies from New Jersey, they like to talk shit. So I was like, I like this guy. Anyway, it's an entrepreneurial program we're in, and I came to find out pretty quickly. I'm like, man, who's that guy? I like it. I like his style. I like his swagger. Coming to find out, he was the founding chairman of this program. This program that had been around at that point for close to 14 years. Now it's going on. Even more than that, I think we're 18 years. Is that right? 17 years?
Yep.
And so I was like, man, I really want to get to know him. So last year we're there. I'm a little buzzed, and I muster up the courage to go up to my friend Rick, and I go, man, I don't know what it is, but I want you to mentor me. And he's like, you serious? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, well, let's talk about it. So over COVID, we've gotten to connect a lot. And I will say this, you've become a mentor and a friend, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, man.
You're welcome. I look at you as a mentor too. I love your energy, and anybody who has the Greatness Machine can mentor me. I love it.
Well, thank you, man. So let's talk a little bit about Rick. You're a lifelong entrepreneur, CEO, serial entrepreneur, bootstrapper, author. You founded more than 20 companies. And again, I mentioned this before, the founding chairman of Gathering Titans, which is this amazing program you guys hear me gush about all the time. The coolest thing, though, about my friend Rick is you've had the same job, same office, and you've been sitting in the same chair that you're sitting in right now for 27 years. Man, tell us about this.
Man, I believe in long-termism. I think long-termism is a lost value. And when you know that you're going to make a decision for the long term, you're incredibly careful about what you do now. So if you're getting married, people are so damn cavalier about things. Before I got married, I had a long list of the values of the perfect person, the values of what I needed to be. And I was 43 when I finally got married. And Melissa, my wife, is my only serious girlfriend. And I think people are just way too cavalier with long-termism and long-term decisions. So I'm really passionate about long-termism. If you want to live to be 100, long term, right? You want to live to be 100, you better be careful what you put in your body today. So long-termism informs short-termism.
What's that quote? It's like a Bill Gates quote. It's like people are so you know what I'm talking about. It's like people are so quick to not. Will you say it? Do you know it? Because
Yep. Bill Gates quote. He says people always underestimate what they can do in 10 years, but overestimate what they can do in 1 year. And it's just human nature. But think about what you can do in 100 years if you stop making the damn mistakes. I always say people don't make the same mistake twice. They make it 15 or 20 times. So
Right.
stop it. Stop this short-termism that's completely destroying our world. 6 billion pills, Darius, a month taken by Americans for anxiety, depression, and mental disorders. 6 billion. Crazy. And it's all because of short-termism, immediate gratification, keeping up with the Joneses and all that crap.
What were you always, did you always have this mindset around long-termism, or is it something that kind of gradually picked up for you?
It's interesting. Through some sheer luck, when I worked on Wall Street, I was able to cold call a guy who was not famous at the time. This is in the late 80s. His name is Warren Buffett. Nobody knew who he was. Went to his office in Omaha, met him. He mentored me for a few years. I'm not name dropping at all. It was just a sheer coincidence that I found his name, called him up, and nobody in my firm had an account with him. And he told me exactly what you started with the call. The call with is, I've been sitting in this office for 35 years. And I thought, wow. And then somebody referred me to a book called Built to Last.
Yep.
And so I decided I only wanted to found one holding company, and that holding company would be the vehicle for everything else I did, which, by the way, when I went and interviewed 44 billionaires, I found that they all had a holding vehicle, and that holding vehicle makes life so much easier, simpler, and long-term focused. Instead of owning everything in your name and having chaos chasing down K1s and doing your accounting, if you do everything under a holding entity, what happens then? You're creating value that's separate and apart from the value of the asset. So it's a really unique strategy to create long-term wealth. So as the seventh of 10 kids, I saw the chaos that my siblings were going through in their life, who they married, who they dated, who they hung out with, where they lived, what they chose to do in terms of, starting businesses and going to college and the majors they took. The seeds were planted early. And then after meeting Buffett, they were cemented in.
So you grew up outside New York, Hoboken, New Jersey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you made your way out to Texas. We're both Texans, transplants. You've been here much longer than I have. Well, how did Texas become part of that?
Yeah, so I was in the witness protection program, and
Rick Sapio is my new name before Vincenzo Tattarelli.
So I'm in New York City, and I was working for a firm, and we were buying the debt of bankrupt public companies. And two of the companies I worked on in my 20s were Southland Corporation, which owned 7-Eleven, and Zale Corporation, the jeweler. So I was going back and forth to Texas a lot. And when I decided to start my business in 1993, I decided that the home would be a place where rent was cheaper, employees were cheaper, and I needed a new beginning to shed, all the entanglements of, being around my hometown. And so I picked Dallas, Texas, signed a lease, and I'm still here in the same building.
I love it, man. And so you met your wife, Melissa. You guys have four beautiful kids, man. I mean, I got to meet Rick's kids this past weekend, and it was cool. That's funny because I see him and I see Rick. Like I can see a little bit different in each child, but you've built this amazing life with this amazing family, and really with this idea around long-termism. I mean, even if I look at, dude, since we met in 2017 till now, and you're like, the shape you've gotten into is incredible. I mean, you're in incredible shape, like over the last couple of years. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Well, I'm in the process of publishing 4 books on long-termism. One is called The 100-Year Education. One's called The 100-Year Company. One's called The 100-Year Mindset, and the other is called The 100-Year Financial Solution. And it got me thinking about, being around for the long haul. And one of the pieces of evidence about how long-termism can be put on the ground for all of you watching is when my wife was pregnant. I was 44, and I had our first child when I was 45. I'm 57 now. And it scared the crap out of me because every male in my family died before they turned 50. And unfortunately, when I was 11, my dad got diagnosed with bone cancer. He was given 6 weeks to live when I was 11, and wow. He ultimately lived 2 years and died when I was 13. But During that time, the last 2 years of his life, he taught me about values and what the family stood for. And those values were so embedded in us kids that now, 45 years after his death, uh, all of my siblings are married. There's no divorces, and there's 200 years of marriage combined. And think about this, without parents. And the reason I say without parents is because when my dad died, my mother had a massive nervous breakdown, and she never recovered. She never was sane after that. It was very sad. But not to, drench you in negativity. It was actually a great thing. It made a man out of me. But one thing I want to say about that is, when I realized I may not live that long, I had to put something on the ground that was permanent. One of my values, Darius, which I hope you like. I mean, it's been one of the greatest things for me, is permanence. The idea of permanent. When you think about things that have been around for a long time, they have permanent structures, and yet today nothing has permanence. So I decided to create what is in my hand right now. It's the Sapio family placemat.
Yeah.
And it's a permanent placemat that's never changed since we created it when my wife was pregnant. It talks about our family values, our family crest, our wedding vows, 6 components of happiness, what we do at our family meetings, the fact that we have dinner 7 nights a week as a family, all of our values, our vision. And it's funny, I only changed one thing on the placement. I'll just read it. Our vision is, it used to say 8. And my wife said, we can't say 8. We are 7 members strong. We play full out in all aspects of life. We are family first and foremost. Our love is our bond. We are healthy, happy, active, and lean. And one of the emblems on the family crest says, it's a picture of an elephant. It says, the elephant stands for great strength, wit, longevity, happiness, royalty, good luck, and ambition. And so our kids have seen this every day of their lives because it sits at the dinner table. And every night at dinner, we have a talking stick and we go around with a question. And we always end with, read something off the placemat and tell us what it means. It's been a ritual for more than 10 years with us. So permanence, I would encourage everyone to have permanence as one of their values, because permanence yields massively.
Oh man, and the compounding effects. I know you and I both have finance backgrounds, but for people that understand, it's the 8th one of the world is compounding, right? And so there's a compounding effect of doing that, where, I'm just now starting to toy with it. I did this stuff in my business, and then found that I had this massive shortcoming of building these cultural artifacts. I call them assets, cultural assets, into my business. And then I turn around my family and I'm not doing any of this stuff. And it was one of those things where I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, you said something so brilliant. I just want to make sure we underscore it. Who was it that said, Einstein said, the miracle of compounding interest is the greatest thing he's ever seen. But the miracle of compounding decisions that are aligned with your values, wow, that's far more powerful than anything. But it assumes that you know what your values are.
Right.
It assumes that you know what your purpose is. It assumes that you know what your objectives are. And I always say, absent specific values, a crystal clear purpose, and a catalyzing statement, which I did a TED talk on, you have absolutely no idea how to distinguish between an opportunity and a colossal waste of time. And most of us are spending our time in complete, delirium, responding to emails and texts and voicemail and all this crap all day, instead of making aligned decisions and compounding them, just like you said.
Can you dive into that? Because right now I'm clear on my purpose and I'm clear on my values. But let's talk about that catalyzing statement. What is that? Yep. Walk us through that.
All right. Let me just give you a little background on catalyzing statement. So everything that I do in my life, I try to put through the lens of simplicity, probability, and leverage, which are my operating values for my family and for my businesses, then long-termism, and then permanence. So simplicity, probability, and leverage. Every decision that I make, I say, how do I make this as simple as possible? How do I increase the probability that this decision helps us achieve our stated objective or outcome? And how do I leverage existing relationships, existing technology, existing businesses? Most people don't think that way. So an
Right.
example of that is I read a book when my wife was pregnant. It's called The Bilingual Advantage. And the Bilingual Advantage studied 40,000 kids, and it said that if a kid from birth speaks 2 languages, they'll have 20 points higher IQ. So I'm like, that's simplicity, probability, and leverage. I already speak another language. I'm only going to talk to my kids in Italian. And now they're bilingual. And sure enough, we have 4 kids, and all 4 have really high IQs. But it wasn't anything that I did different than I didn't have to add a whole lot to my life to do that. They don't have to study
Right.
harder. They just speak another language. And how did that happen? I just said, honey, do you mind if I only talk to the kids in Italian?
Yeah.
And simplicity, probability, and leverage manifests itself in so many ways for all of us. But another thing is I hired a trainer. He's 61. He's got 4% body fat. And I hired him when he was 51, 10 years ago. And I said, Hosh, I want to use simplicity, probability, and leverage to get in shape. He said, okay, great. 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. We'll do 30 sets in 30 minutes, and you get the hell out of the gym. So now I got an accountability partner. It's 30 minutes, right? He kicks my ass if I'm overweight, and I'm out the door and ready to go. So there's things like that. And I'll give you one more example in my personal life. My wife and I, our first date was Monday at 7:30. And I knew I was going to marry her on the first date. So the next Monday, I called her up and said, you want to go out to dinner? She said, yes. At that dinner, I said, do you mind if we have dinner every Monday night at 7:30? She said, no, we haven't missed in 15 years.
Oh, man.
Now, that's massive leverage. The babysitter knows, the kids know, the restaurant knows because we only go to 2 places. And it's easy. You don't have to say, hey, honey, you want to get a babysitter? It cuts out so much bullshit. So there's a lot of ways to manifest simplicity, probably leverage, long-termism, and permanence. I just gave you some examples.
You know, it's funny. So I was listening to NPR, I don't know, a few years ago, and they had this guy on there named BJ Fogg who came on and started talking about this book called Tiny Habits. And he made the same point. He said, look, if you want to go and let's say you're bad about flossing your teeth. He's like, everyone says, oh, I'm going to floss my teeth every day. He's like, say I'm going to floss 1 tooth. And then eventually you'll floss them all and it becomes a habit, right? So he said, you got to make it easy, to your simplicity. And one of the comments he makes is like, you want to eat healthier, put an apple on your desk every day. I didn't say, and he says, bear in mind, I didn't say eat it, right? And so it was funny, and I write about this in my book. It's chapter 7 in the book, where I said, the biggest thing around, and I think you've done a great job of this with your family, and I'm just now starting to do this with my family, is you got to fit it into the things you're already doing, because the minute it becomes extra work, it's business as usual. People ignore it. They stop doing it. But I think there's a Japanese word for this. I think it's called shibui, and it's the complexity in the simple, right? And so I love the approach you're taking, because I have another friend who, when you're in Austin next, I'll introduce you to him. His name is Chris Ripley. And he was telling me he went to this thing called like the 360 conference in LA. Have you been to this? Or do you know of this?
No.
And he said it's based on the idea that everyone lives and they say, oh, like I'm going to die when I'm 80. And they make this assumption that, the last 10 years of their life are going to be terrible and they're just going to, fade away and die, right? I'm generalizing right now. He said, well, what if you had the idea that you were going to live to 120 and that 90 or 100 or 110 of those years were going to be super productive, right? Like you were going to be more productive at 90 than you were at 80. You're going to be more productive at 100 than you were at 90. And he said, the technology we have and the actual information we have around the human body, diet, nutrition, the brain, it says this is possible. And I'm going to tell you one more thing. This guy, Rick Sapio, recommends this book to me. And I think it was something around the man that had the secrets of the world. I'm screwing the name up right now, right?
Yeah. The man who tapped the secrets of the universe.
The man that tapped the secrets of the universe completely changed my life when I read that book. I read it twice. I listened to it on audio twice. And I was like, and he's all into Fibonacci sequences, right? And you start to look at the mathematics of Fibonacci and nature, and this is all around what you're talking about: simplicity, synchrony. Like when we look at like how can we make our lives align more with what we're trying to create. And so when I hear you say all these things, it really is encouraging to me that this is a way of life we can all live. What do you think about that?
I think it starts with a commitment to living the life of your dreams and taking time. I went to a log cabin decades ago in Colorado with a coach, and I said, I'm not leaving here till my purpose is established, my values are established, and my main objectives in my life are established. Otherwise, you're just running around with the lights off your whole life and a blindfold on. But let's go back to something that you said, which is really interesting. People often say dreams, but not uh, goals. So what I mean by that is I'm in YPO and YEO for a long time. And we do our goals at the beginning of the year. And someone says, I want to improve my marriage this year. I'm like, that is the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard. How are you going to do that? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm going to improve my marriage. So a goal without a rhythm is a dream. So what I say is, how about this? Every Monday night at 7:30, 52 times, I'm going to go out to dinner with my wife. Why don't you put that down as a goal? Whoa, that's a big commitment.
Right.
And here's the thing about life that I've learned. If you're going to take something on in your life, it better be permanent because you only have so much time, right? So now if it's going to be permanent, then you're going to be really careful what you do. I love this quote from Heather Rice, and Heather Rice is in a program that I created called Business Finishing School. And she says, I love this quote. It's going to stop you in your tracks. She said, doing something 90% of the time is really, really hard. Doing something 100% of the time is really, really easy.
Ah,
So if you said, honey, we're going to have dinner 52 times on Monday night for the next year, that's it. But how about if we can get a babysitter, we'll go out to dinner. So I'll just call you. And so it's Wednesday night. Hey, honey, want to go out to dinner? I'm tired. We don't have a baby. So 100% of the time is easier. So my trainer knows 100% of the time I'm going to work out with him. 100%. He'll tell you that. Now, what happens if you're sick? When you have massive commitments like that, you get sick a whole lot less.
yeah. So I don't know if I mentioned this to you. So I picked up a couple habits during COVID. One of which I'm not proud of. I drink beer more often now than I did before. The one I am very proud of though is I started swimming, and I've never worked out 7 days a week in my whole life ever until I started swimming every day. And I was not a great swimmer. I have a pool that's like 34 feet by 14 feet, and it's just and it's rectangular. And I don't know what it was, but I was like, I kind of like how this makes me feel, man. I'm not, my muscles are sore, but my joints aren't sore. And I have kind of bad joints. So I would run and my joints would hurt, or I'd lift weights and my joints would hurt. And I tore my rotator cuff. That's how this started, because I was like, I can't like do anything. I have a torn rotator. Everything I do, it like ends up like, I don't enjoy it or it hurts. So oh, maybe I'll swim. That might help my shoulder. One day turns into 2, turns into 7. I will say this. I've only missed 6 days in the last 5 months. And every day I was pissed I couldn't swim because I was in a place where there was no pool, right? But the point being is that swimming 7 days a week is easy. Swimming 5 days a week is actually pretty tough because it's like, which 5 days do I want to do? As opposed to look, I'll go in the pool for 10 minutes and knock out swimming. And at least I checked the box and I'm like, oh, I got my swim in. That's all I had for the day. But I told my wife that. I said, this is the easiest workout I've ever done in my life. And it's because, and I never take a day off. So I love that idea that you just said.
Do you have a heater in your pool?
No, I need to get one.
So Matt Monero, another Gathering of Titans member, he does not have a heater and he's in Dallas. And I swam with him one day. He swims 7 days a week. The water was 44 degrees. I thought I was going to die. And he didn't tell me. He goes, dive in and swim with me. I dive in. I'm like, whoa. This son of a bitch is swimming 7 days a week, no matter what. I'm like, it's crazy. So
yeah, man.
It is a cool concept, though, permanence and 100%. And I'll tell you, it'll help your family. You know, my kids know 100% of the time we're having family dinner. No ifs, ands, or buts. So it's a big ritual around it, how we do it. But yeah, it's a pain in the ass. And nobody else we know does it. But our kids will be richly rewarded. Why? Because we get to do cool things at dinner. Like I ask questions. I often ask them, what did you fail at today? You know, Sarah Blakey, who founded Spanx,
Yeah.
she said the greatest thing that she learned as a child was how to fail a lot and often. So when she created Spanx, she went to 180 retailers who all told her to go pound sand until one gave her a chance. And now she's worth $3 billion. But kids don't have a failure muscle today. So in our family, we fail a lot. And so as an example, and you may have heard me talk about this in the past, but the listeners haven't. If you start something in our family, you don't quit, you can't quit. So all of the kids do karate. My oldest has been doing it for 8.5 years. He's 12. They all play the piano. They all play chess. They all speak Italian. And there's some other things that they all do. But the point is you can't quit, because I've hired so many millennials. This is not against millennials at all, but they've heard their whole life, do what makes you happy. So I had to fire this one guy recently. And I'm like, Bill, every time you commit to something, you stop doing it within a week. Why? He goes, because my mother told me do what makes you happy. I go, what was high school like? Well, it was good. Why? I said, and then he started telling me, joined the golf team for 3 weeks, played football for 3 weeks, did this for 3 weeks, did that for 3 weeks. And I called his mother. This is a funny, famous story here and now in the office. And I'll never forget her name. Her name was Deborah. I said, Deborah, did you tell Bill do what makes you happy? She goes, oh, I told him that his whole life. I said, how has it worked? And she's like, well, he's happy. I go, yeah, for 10 minutes. I go, do you know that fulfillment comes from doing really hard things that you hate? I hate getting up at 5 a.m., but I'm fulfilled that I'm in shape. I hate eating right almost all the time, but I'm fulfilled that I'm skinny and I feel good. When my wife would not say I'm skinny, but I'm skinnier. So fulfillment is the goal, not fucking happiness, which is short term and fleeting. Fulfillment comes from hard work. Like my mentor, Reinhold, who's 92, said, my marriage was really tough, but now my sweetheart sitting next to me after 62 years, I am unbelievably fulfilled. But it wasn't easy, and I wasn't always happy.
Dude, quitting is a habit, right? And I got taught it at a young age. My parents are old school. My dad was born in 1939 in Iran, which I was joking with someone earlier today. So that's like being born in 1889 in America. And my mom, her dad was from Italy, from northern Italy, from a village, grew up poor, and her mom grew up in a steel mill town during the Great Depression in western Pennsylvania. And so I got brought up kind of hardcore, and I was working at a gas station when I was 10, and we weren't allowed to quit anything, like ever. That was not even an option.
I love your story about the gas station, because I was in the same boat. You have got to put your kids to work. And I feel like as parents, I don't want to leave this interview. I know we've got a hard stop. I don't want to leave this interview without talking about kids today. We're all raising dependent kids. We're supposed to be raising independent kids. And I tell my kids this all the time, it's right on the placemat. It says, you will be an independent, entrepreneurial, God-fearing 18-year-old. You will not get any money from mom or dad after 18. We will not pay for college or your car or your cell phone or your insurance. They know that. So you know what that does to them? It makes them entrepreneurial. It makes them independent. And the other thing we do in our family is a lot. I wrote a blog about this, but we bought a rental property down the street. So we've got our house, we've got a rental property. So now they know about what it takes to have a piece of real estate and meeting the tenants and taking care of the lawn and all that. And my son said to me recently, Daddy, will I own that rental house? I go, no, you get paid by the hour when you do work on the house. And they all have a piggy bank that has 4 compartments in it for saving, investing, spending, and donating. And we also replicated those accounts at the bank for all 4 kids. Every dime that they have in their piggy bank, in the bank, they earned. I don't want to give my kids anything. No. That teaches them that life is unfair or fair, all that bullshit. No, life is what you make of it.
Yeah.
And so my point is, don't raise dependent kids, raise independent kids. And when they're sitting in the back and you're taking them to all those damn travel sport things that teach them how to be on electronics and have mommy and daddy take them everywhere. What is that teaching them? And so my wife and I spend a massive amount of time talking about independence and making decisions that create independence. and independence is financial. So when at the every Sunday they get paid, so they have to show. We have I got to give you mine. We have a chore chart, and each kid has to fill out the chore chart every day. And at the end of the week, it shows what they did and how much they get paid. And I've been doing this for 10 years, Darius.
I
I
love
shit
it.
you not. So Sunday they get paid, it goes in the piggy bank, then it goes to the bank once a quarter, and then they could see it grow. But what is it creating? It's creating the awareness that I do something, I'm accountable for it, I get paid for it, I put it in my bank account, I watch it grow. And since daddy isn't going to pay for me after 18, I better figure this shit out.
Man, why can't we just have 3 hours together? God damn it, this is amazing. I love Sapio. You and I, we were separated at birth. I was the 11th kid in your family. How many of you guys have? Guys, Sap, Rick, we got to continue this conversation. We got a hard stop here. I know you got to run and I got to run, but anything you want to leave the guests with? We're going to continue this conversation on another show because I'm having too much fun with you, and there's a lot I want to really dig into, especially on the kid side with entrepreneurism. Talk more about that.
Yeah, I am massive around long-termism, and I also hate, I've been in financial services for over 30 years. I hate that people lose money often. And so this whole thing we created a podcast called Money for Life, and it's about the four areas of life that we want you to excel at: faith, family, finances, and future. And I believe wholeheartedly in long-term investing without risk. So I'd like the people to check out the 100yearssavingsolution.com to learn more about that.
Yeah, guys, we'll make sure we put those in the comments. Check that out. Anywhere else you want to promote? We got the 100 Year Savings. Anything else where they can find you?
Business Finishing School. It's an online program we created. Over 2,000 people have been through it. It's to help people have what we talk about: simplicity, probability, leverage, permanence, and long-termism in all aspects of life. So businessfinishingschool.com.
I'll tell you this, Rick's the godfather, man, and one of the smartest guys I know, and I feel so lucky to have you in my life, brother, and I'm so excited for us to continue these conversations and to bring you to the audience so they can learn from you, because you're a gifted guy, a hardworking guy, and a guy I really respect. So thank you so much, my friend.
Ditto, Darius. Thank you.
Guys, on my side, we got some more shows. I think I got 2 more shows today. We just got to start off with Rick. We got Barbara Yolis this afternoon, and a forum mate of mine, Jeff Berkland, this evening. Follow us at The Real Darius M on Facebook, www.therealdarius.com. Subscribe. That's how you get all the updates. And also on YouTube at The Real Darius. Please subscribe to follow the show. We'll talk to you guys later. Love my man, Rick. Big hugs, dude. Peace.